Hey, what's up, YouTube? Red and Bordy here. Today, we're going to break down some dueling footage that we got from the February development update of Ashes of Creation. Bordy, this is one of our favorite topics, dude. PvP.
Yeah, absolutely, man. It's going to be fun to talk about.
So we got to see a little bit, obviously, from the Alpha 1 test client. So, you know, we know that none of this stuff is concrete. We're going to try not to be too over analytical about the stuff we're watching, obviously knowing that there's going to be a lot of changes. But it was cool to see some player versus player combat, something we haven't seen from Ashes of Creation yet, as far as
yeah, absolutely. Goes. When they said that they were going to duel at the end of the video, I got pretty excited, man. I was ready to see it, and it was pretty good.
So some real quick notes before we get started, just to clarify. They did end up equalizing their health, obviously, dev tools and all GM stuff that they can do. So they're all at 2,700 health. As you see these damage numbers or these damage ticks, you'll know that it's compared to that total health. All are level 10. None have chosen their secondary class yet, to my understanding. They're all like a solitary, like mage or cleric or tank, which are the three classes featured in the video. First thing to notice, Bordy, or first thing to mention, all the abilities on Stephen Barr match up to the mage preview. Except Zero, which is the navigation tool, I believe. It's the thing that they got during the quest line that allows them to pop up some sort of like navigation button.
Okay, I was wondering what that was and why he popped it, and I paused the video there. It says Sir Jansen's Astro Blade. I didn't know what that was. Used to navigate to celestial coordinates.
Yeah,
I don't know what that. I didn't know what it was.
It was like part of a quest line that they did earlier on in the video.
But why does he use it before they duel?
It was an accident. He did it. Yeah, he mentioned that. Yeah, he said it was an accident. So it's interesting, Bordy. Let's see. So now these are the classes, and like you said, I didn't see any abilities in this video that weren't already shown during the previews when we saw the cleric, the mage, and the tank. So, you know, that's going to, I think, hold true as far as their base abilities go.
Yeah, I think so.
So it's interesting to kind of think. They did mention CC a little bit, Bordy. So it'll be interesting to see if because they said that, you know, obviously this is only level 10 and the max level is level 50. So it'll be interesting to see how all the mutations and adaptations work as they go on. But this video, we're just going to look at these basic abilities. So real quick, and I know you love this topic because you harp on it all the time, dude. Particle, the animation. What do you think, dude? To me, they don't seem as overwhelming when you're watching the fights.
Yeah, so I didn't think so either. There were a couple of times there where they did get there was quite a bit, and then I keep thinking about the large scale fights. That's what I think about whenever I see all these animations, and dude, it would get out of hand if there were 50 people fighting at once, or 50v50 battle or something crazy like that going on. And then in Ashes, it's supposed to be much more than that with the large sieges. So I do think it would get a little crazy in terms of animations if there's that many people. In the 2v2 duel, it was okay. Like, it was fine. Some of the abilities actually look really cool. But I think it's going to get nuts with so many people involved, you know? Yeah,
potentially. I doubt in today's technology, I would doubt like these particle effects would be those of which would, like, you know, bog down performance, just because I think a lot of them have like sliders to where you can, if your computer isn't necessarily up to, you know, current specs, you could at least titrate the amount of particle effects that you see during combat. So I don't see that being like a long-term issue. But to your point, it could be a little bit worrisome. But I was surprised to see, Bordy, because a lot of those, as they were initially crafting these, we made videos on each of the class reveals and the class ability, and they seemed to be very like over-the-top animations. And animations that would lock you in for a long time. But as you're watching PvP, it didn't seem to be the case, man. They all flow pretty well.
Yeah, it was a lot more fast paced than I'd envisioned after watching those videos. They were moving around a lot. There was a lot of mobility going on, and and just a kind of a quick sidebar to all the particle effects and animations. They have said they're going to work on those, right? Like this obviously isn't a finished product, so I think it'll ultimately end up being fine. I just know it's a hot button issue, and it's one that I always keep an eye on too, for sure. But I think it'll be fine in the end. But yeah, the mobility, the movement, all of that was kind of surprising to me too. The fight seemed to flow pretty well, and they were moving around there on the beach a lot more than I thought they would be, dodging and all that good stuff, running and casting abilities while they're moving. Looked pretty fluid.
Yeah, and the one that locked them down the most was his prismatic beam, but that is, I think, intentional. A lot of those channeled abilities do kind of place you in a more vulnerable state, but obviously that thing seemed to do a pretty decent amount of damage. So
yeah, and I think something like that probably should, right? I mean, I think there should be some abilities that do. If they're going to be doing damage, and it looks like you can just aim that beam wherever you want, and it's just like this. It looked really cool. I actually liked it during the fight.
Yeah,
so I think that's fine to have some abilities that kind of lock you down like that.
Yeah, there's some trade-off, right? You're placing yourself in a vulnerable position to do higher amounts of damage. So the mage, again, looked pretty cool. The abilities did seem to flow a lot more than I thought they would. The void abilities look really cool, or those portals and blinks. I think those animations look pretty dope. The tank,
I like the blink.
Yeah, the
blink was cool.
The blink looks cool. And it does give like a little bit of a trail to see, like, because sometimes blink can be very overpowered in games like this. And it did give some sort of a trail to let you know which direction the mage blinked in, it seemed. It left a big ball and then a little ball as he blinks out of it. The tank dude seems pretty crazy. If you watch all the dueling footage, the tank was definitely the deciding factor of the duel.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's because the class is just really, really strong right now in this version, or if it's the competition that he's going up against,
Right. Well, exactly. That, yeah, Steven goes on to kind of defend the fact that he's not necessarily a PvPer. But it's going to be interesting to see. Obviously, they've only got 3 classes in, so balancing is non-existent at this point. Why balance when you've got to add in 5 more classes to the fray? But it was cool to see the tank in action, man. Again, I kind of harp on the fact that they're actually named tank. I wish there was like maybe some sort of different name, but you can tell that just because your name is tank, taking aggro is not the only thing you're gonna get to do. This that tank package seemed to have a lot of good CC for PvP.
Yeah, but you won't be named tank after you take on your secondary archetype, though. That's whenever your name changes to something really dope. So I don't think that's a issue, man.
Very, very true. Just being nitpicky, dude, to be completely honest with you. So, okay, let me see here. Now, here's an important thing to discuss. Most abilities seem to be tab targeted, Bordy. I know this is something that you are afraid of because you don't want, tab targeting. And I agree with you. Tab targeting seems to be a type of combat of the past in MMOs. But obviously with this hybrid system, you can see some of the time where they place the AoEs on the ground and target those abilities with obviously aiming and not just tab targeted. But there are other ones that are tab targeted.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did get a glimpse of kind of the hybrid combat happening here, because you're right. A lot of the AoE abilities, you do have to kind of aim where you want them to go. It's a large area, obviously, and then you just put that where you want to go. And there was a couple times where, like, Steven casted something a little bit too soon and it didn't hit his target. And I think the black hole was one of those where he was trying to CC them in the beginning. he kind of did a little bit early and missed. So, but then there's other abilities where it is like tab targeted, like the the Drain Essence ability, I think, that he uses a couple times, or a bunch of people use it during the fight, and it just kind of locks on and follows the player around. So you do kind of see the mixture going on there. And I don't know what to make of that yet. I know they're still working on the combat system and fleshing that out, but it was interesting to see what was happening there this early on. And overall, I think it was okay. I'd like to see much more action-based and tab target, in my opinion. That's just my personal preference. But I think overall, it flowed a lot better than I thought it was going to.
Yeah, I agree. This combat, and I didn't think it would, it kind of reminds me a little bit about of Elder Scrolls Online, the mix of of targeting versus, you know, like your tab targeted or your, I mean, just abilities that kind of lock on to the player versus, you know, having to aim the like projectile weapons or whatever.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. I didn't expect that necessarily, but we know that this is a work in progress, and some of these things are going to change. And specifically, they have mentioned in the past that if the combat doesn't work, if it's something that you know, that they feel like, you know, the hybrid system is lacking, then they are going to head towards a more tab targeted direction.
Yeah, which is interesting, and we'll just have to wait and see. I have to play the game for myself, see how it feels, and go from there. I prefer action based. We'll see what happens with the combat, but I don't know, man. It's going to be an interesting thing to follow.
It will. Bordy, I mean, that's about it. I suggest if you guys haven't seen the video, you should go watch it for yourselves. It's pretty cool to watch them, again, in action, fighting each other. The fights aren't that balanced, obviously. Steven, he mentions that he's seen his heyday of PvP and he's no longer there.
He's a good sport, though, man. It was funny.
He is a very good sport about it. And obviously, I mean, what are those guys doing, man? They're beating up on their boss. I hope their jobs are secure because, Steven just may be like, you remember that time you beat me in PvP in front of, 10,000, 20,000 people? Exactly. You're fired.
Yep.
I don't think Steven would do that, but maybe, who knows, dude? You get on his bad side. This is what happens, boys. You don't beat up on your boss in PvP. You let him win. That's what you do. All right. Well, you have anything to add for the PvP video?
No, I don't think so, man. I think it was just really cool to get to see some PvP in action. I have, for one, have been wanting to see something like this happen, so I'm just glad they shared it. And it was, I don't think we can analyze this too much, like you said in the beginning of the video, because it is so early on. They're only level 10. They're using all base abilities, but it is fun to see the movement, see how they're moving around, see how PvP kind of works and flows. And I enjoyed it, man. I was glad that they showed this.
Yeah. And something real quick, I think that we can add, and what's interesting is, we mentioned it's a little bit about like Elder Scrolls Online, but there is a traditional thing that kind of, I know, really bugs you because we and you have different backgrounds in MMOs. I came from like EverQuest, that direction. You were more like a UO guy, and the right click to move the camera. It's not an action-based camera. It doesn't seem to be an action-based camera. Does that concern you at all, Bordy, when it comes to the overall?
Yeah, dude, I hate that. Yeah, I hate it, dude. It's made me quit games this day and age for sure. Like I played a lot of World of Warcraft back in the day. I've played a lot of games that had this hold down right click to turn your camera type of thing, more of the traditional MMO camera movement. And for a lot of people, it doesn't bother them. For me, it bothers me really bad because I've kind of moved out of that, especially with the introduction of like ESO. They have an action-based camera. You don't have to hold down right click to move around. Guild Wars 2 introduced an option that you can turn on action-based camera, and so you don't have to hold right click to move around. And I think that just proves that that is way too old school, man. I think in the year 2021, man, why are we still living like we're back in World of Warcraft days? It just doesn't make sense to me that we still have to use those types of controls in an MMO. And I hope that gets pulled out. I hope that we don't have to hold down right click to move our camera. And I may be the only one out there making a big deal out of it, but I hate it. I think it's so completely outdated. And there's much better ways for camera control in modern day video games, man. So we'll see what happens with that. I hope that they change that, but who knows, man.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice for sure. You haven't seen that in a long time. And something we mentioned before the game, even games that did have it have introduced an action-based combat or a camera to add into, so you could change back and forth between one another. Guild Wars 2 is the one that comes to mind. Most recently, just because, again, we have a lot of games that, especially when games are like Black Desert Online, where it's literally like,
yeah, exactly. That's another one.
Extremely action, it just this intense, fast-paced movement. And if they can institute an action camera in that game, then surely a game like Ashes of Creation can have one as well.
Yeah, I feel like we're past that in MMOs, man. I don't want to go backwards. I want to go forward, you know. And with all the other innovations Ashes is doing, why do we not have an action-based camera? So
I'd have to agree.
hopefully that'll change.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with you there, man. This game is looking, you know, and they've said so themselves. They're looking to push the genre forward, and not just a small step, in leap fashion. So you would expect to see, you know, we mention this all the time. We cover and have covered MMOs for quite a while now. Combat is one of the, if not the most important thing in a game, and so it's important that they nail this for sure. I think for the player base of Ashes of Creation.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, that about does it. Guys, thanks for watching. We really appreciate it. Let us know what other Ashes content you guys are looking for in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscription button, the notification bell for more Ashes of Creation content like this. And we will see you in the next video.